And we're live. Whoa, you weren't expecting this. Neither was I. Frankly, I was not expecting this either. This came out of nowhere. I assure you. This just is happening right now. Just like that. Just going to type something on the Facebooks real quick. See if anybody wants to join me. Let's see here. How is everybody doing? What is today? Thursday. The time. Sometimes time is time. I don't know where I was going with that. Well, I'm trying to focus on doing something, but I don't want there to be dead air. So that's why I'm talking all sideways out of the side of my neck. Live on YouTube right now. Join me if you like. Link in comments. StreamYard. Link in comments as well. Okay, I think that's good. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to post that real quick. And I'm going to, well, first what we have to do is got to get that link. Got to get both links. Is this live? This is live. Someone's watching. Somebody's watching me. There we go. Whoa. I always feel like, is the live chat on though? I hope so. Got a ringing in my ear. All right, there we go. I got it. I know, this is so fascinating. Here. Link. Then we just want to do the StreamYard chat. If anybody wants to join me. It's one of those kind of nights. Here we go. Invite. Copy the clipboard. I'm putting that in the, there you go. That's the link to hop on. Feel free to join me. Okay, they're both on. And I'm full blast here. Okay. Let's do it. What's up, Felipe? I got this. You got this. Felipe in the house. So, guys, I just put the StreamYard link in there if you want to join me. Okay, here's the deal. I was doing another podcast. I was doing Pizza Punk, actually. I was doing an episode of Pizza Punk, and I had so many technical difficulties with my guest that we just could not overcome the Wi-Fi problems that we were having. And I decided that I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave or finish the night without putting out some kind of content. I gotta be making videos every day. That's the goal, the master plan here. So I figured I'd just impromptu go live. Not supposed to do it on a Thursday, but I did it, and happy to do it. Like doing it. Wouldn't be doing it if I didn't like doing it. And I've got one little thing to first. I want an update. So I have good news. So if you missed, we had a whole botch thing I did. We finally did 1979, a year of horror business. We did 1979, a year of horror business. It sort of bombed in the sense it was well received. People really dug the content, but it bombed in the sense that I could not. I got, I had takedowns with music situations. So what I did was I went back into the edit and I switched a couple of things around, and we're going to be doing a second premiere. It's about a half hour shorter. I had to cut out a whole bunch of stuff. It's about a half hour shorter. I had to swap some things out. But it's going to premiere live on Facebook. So it's going to be Facebook streaming live on Friday the 13th. I don't remember the time. Friday the 13th. Here, I'll tell you the time right now. So you can if you missed EVILIVE the first time, so it's going to premiere at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. that is. Matter of fact, I should probably put that link in there, right? Let's do that too. If you have not already, please subscribe, like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave some comments. All of these things really help to support the channel. So please do that. It's a big help. And I'm just going to share it. So you can set your reminder. You can actually set your reminder for when 1979 is going to stream. Okay. And so I'm putting that in the comment section. There it is. Set your reminder for that link. You go to that link, you click the bell, subscribe to the channel while you're at it. Turn on the little bell for notifications. You'll be all set. You'll be right as rain. I don't consider this a full episode because I don't think it's going to last very long. Like I said, I just every day got to make a video. So today, that's what this video is. Hey, Oni, what's going on? Oh, it says hail. 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 Okay. Well, how you doing? Glad you're here. For those of us just joining us, there's a link here. If you want to hop on the chat, you want to hop in, come on in. Come in the video. Talk to me. It'll make this thing last longer. So feel free. You're invited. I wouldn't be saying it if you weren't invited. Okay? Putting it in one more time. Anybody wants to join me. So 1979 is coming. I just put that in there again. Click that link if you want to come in. Click this link if you want to get on for 1979. That's Friday the 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will have our second premiere. And it's a shorter version. So if you did not catch that first version, it was going great. We had at one point, there were 90 people watching. I was shocked. I was like, holy crap, 90 people are watching 1979. This is so cool. I was so stoked about it. And then all of a sudden, the 90 dropped down to 12 in an instant like that. And I was like, damn. And I think I got hit by the, whatever, the thing, I got hit by the, what's it called? The algorithm that picks up music that's not supposed to be there. So I went back in, I did a bunch of tests. I probably did 6 or 7 exports to get it right. And it's coming back on Friday. No, not Friday, Friday the 13th. Tomorrow was also Friday. Tomorrow is a brand new episode of Pizza Punk. Set your reminder for that as well. And I have Joe Vasta, JV Bastard, will be on the episode. JV and I go back a ways. Both toured with Blitzkid. So he will be on the show. We did a marathon chat. The chat in total was over 7.5 hours, but we only recorded 5 hours and 12 minutes of it, which is the longest podcast I have ever done in my life. I've never done something so long. So I'm going to put those links up there too, so you could set reminders for when those shows are going to go live, which is tomorrow. I just split it into 2 parts. It was so big. The thing was so ginormous. 5 hours and 12 minutes. Had to split. So the first part is going to air tomorrow on Friday. The second part is going to air on Saturday. Both at the same time. I don't remember what time that is. That's the time is 8 p.m. And so you can set that reminder. The tour where everything went wrong, right? Which tour? Are you talking about but London Dungeon? Oh, you're talking about what I posted in the thing. Yeah, that was going to be my quick piece of micro content, Oni. That's my quick piece of micro content that we're going to just chat about real quick. I figured I would, I don't want to just come out into the show with absolutely nothing in my pocket. That would just be silly. So the links I'm posting now, that's for the JV episode, Joe Vasta. So you can turn on your reminders for those as well. And now we'll talk. And like I said, if anybody wants to join me on the air, you can come on. If you got a video camera and audio, feel free. In the meantime, I'm going to read about this. All right. So the thing about Misfits Central that's so great is one of the things that was so great about Misfits Central, not as much anymore. There was a message board, a message forum. Some of you might have been on it. I was definitely on it. I'll never tell you what my name was. That's how I know a few people, I guess, kind of. I don't know if they knew my name on there, but I knew who they were. And I saw this top. Every once in a while, I go back on just the old haunt. I was on there for 12 years on and off, right? But every once in a while, I like to go back on and just take a look at the old site, see what topics. A lot of the topics are tired. People posting the same thing over and over and over and over again. But I thought this was interesting because of 1979, because of what we had done a deep dive on and had studied. I thought this was actually worth kind of going on, finding the excuse to go live right now and talk about this. It's a tiny little piece of minutia. It's not even minutia. You know what it is? It's a point of view. But I think the best, as I've said in the past, I always think Oni says he's been a lurker of those forums since 2005. Yeah, man. A lot of what happened? There was a purging of all the old chats, of all the old whatever subjects, whatever you want to call them, threads. And it got restarted at one point, which is a real shame. So all the old stuff is gone, lost to time. Even though they say once you put something on the internet, it's never truly gone. But this is lost to time. In the same way that MySpace, from my understanding, MySpace is lost to time. You can never recover any of your data or anything from MySpace, which really is a shame. Because I would love to see that stuff again. I can't. It's just, it doesn't exist. But like I said, the thing that I love most about history and sort of like looking at this stuff and, talking to different people, even if they're not like, famous or of note or anything, just people who might have been around back then, is because you're going to get different points of view. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get interesting takes on things that may not fit the main narrative, but like they have some sort of like shred of, truth or add to something that may not be there. I don't know. I just find it interesting to hear other people's perspectives. And so this guy calls himself Adam. He posted this last year, March 25th, on a Monday, March 25th, 2019 at 2:04 a.m. It's amazing that people are still posting on this because, again, like I said, this forum got so tired so quickly not quickly, but over time, people just posted the same like 5 topics over and over and over again. If it doesn't come up in the web archives, it's gone. Do you mean the Wayback Machine? Is that what you're referring to? So Adam says here, it's probably too small to read. I'll read it to you. Adam says, I found a more extensive list for the 1979 November-December Damn Tour. I located this by looking up the Irish punk band Victim. That was that second band. We talked about that. That's the second band that was on the bill, that was contracted to be on the bill with the Damned, not impromptu like the Misfits. Not to be confused with the American punk band, the Victims. It is as follows, who, by the way, Rick Riley from the Victims watched 1979. Rick Riley played guitar for the Misfits on a few sparse occasions after Franche Coma left the band. I had interviewed him years and years ago, along with his bass player in the Victims, Steve, about what they remember about playing with the Misfits. And Rick said that I did a good job, and that really made me feel really good to hear it from that guy. Steve also watched it. He thought it was good. It's nice to hear that sort of stuff. It makes me think that maybe I'm on point with it because, again, I was not alive when that stuff was happening. This is all in hindsight 2020, not hindsight 2020, but that was a weird thing to say. In any case, Rick from the Victims watched it and thought I had done a good job. Made me happy. It is as follows. So here are all the dates. You have the 22nd, the 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 28th, 30th of November, and then the 1st, 4th, 6th, 7th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th of December. And then on the 22nd was the Electric Ballroom with Security Risk and the Satellite. So these were all the dates the Misfits would have played with the Damned had they stayed on the tour. They would have gotten 50 pounds a night instead of the 100 that was supposedly promised to them. And they walked off the tour after 2 dates. And again, we cover this extensively in 1979. But here's a little tidbit on here that I thought was so cool. This is what Adam says at the bottom. This last date didn't include victims, so I suspect that even if the Misfits had went through the entire tour, they wouldn't have played this December 22nd show either. I love sleuthing like this. This is so much fun for me. I love this stuff. I also have info that the Damned were booked on the 26th of November at Fiesta in Plymouth, but that was not included in the above list, so I'm unsure of it. Not including the 22nd of December show, we had a total of 19 dates, which is really close to the 24 dates mentioned in the Plan 9 press release. So I expect that these 19 dates would have made up the entirety of that particular tour, and the 24 may have just been an early estimation. You know, Adam, I don't know who you are, but I think that is fantastic sleuthing. That's fantastic detective work. And it's this type of stuff that gives us, because everybody thinks it's 24 dates and it's not. And honestly, who really cares? Like, why do any of us why do we care about this? Why? Let's do the math here. So 19 dates times 50 pounds a night. They would have made 950 pounds instead of 1,900 pounds. And in their minds, they were going to do, and Jerry talks about it in that interview, they were going to do 24 shows. That would have been just shy 2,400 pounds. And it cost them $3,000 US. It was $3,000 to fly over there on Jerry's Jerry Sr.'s credit card. Now, let's do a little math. 1979 British pound to US dollar. Ready? You got to do a little conversion. So 1979. Well, wait, no, that doesn't work. All right. So in any case, this is annoying because what would it have been back then? That's really frustrating. Hold on. British pound to US dollar in 1979. That's what we want, right? I think that's what we want. Okay. So the 1979 Great British Pound to the US dollar was $1.3. So 1.3 times. So now we got to do 1 point. I know this is so entertaining. 1.3 times 2,400. And the Misfits thought they were going to get $3,120, which is exactly what Jerry needed, plus $120 to pay back his dad, which is what he talks about. But they would have made less per what Adam's saying. Now, all of that is build up to this comment, and it's just one comment, but it's interesting. Some guy named Deadbeat Rock and Roll comments some months later, Sunday, August 25th, 2019 at 4:11 p.m. So that's what is that? April, May, June, July, August. So it's like 5 months later, roughly. And says, I know for a fact that the band only played Leicester. I was there. So he was at that first show. And we mentioned that I showed a picture of that in 1979. When we get to the England section, it shows the place where they played and the place where they sound checked. And the sound check of Cambridge before Joey walked. So he says before Joey walked, but the whole band walked. Ask Joey. He's easily contradictable, but preoccupied with his illness at the moment because Joey had not passed away yet. Joey passed away about, 9 months later. Joey was gone after this was written. The Damned, friends of mine, weren't expecting the Misfits to be on this tour at all. They just turned up after a half arse. So this guy is British. He's using arsed instead of asked. A half arsed promise from Vanian on the previous U.S. tour when they had played with the Damned at Haraz. Damned tours at that time were chaotic and cancellations were rife. Interesting. So now Adam fires back. Yes, aware of the De Montfort Hall show and the Cambridge soundcheck. For historical reasons, some may be interested in a full listing of the tour dates, despite the fact that the Misfits only played one full show and a soundcheck. This list is mainly an update of the more inaccurate dates listed on the site already. There was no misconception on my part that these dates had been played by the Misfits, and even if the Damned didn't expect them to play at all, there was a Plan 9 press release that does mention many dates. So these are the dates being referred to. Good for you, Adam, for standing up for what you were doing. He didn't understand. It's more about capturing our imagination, that there might have been this many Misfit shows, right? And what's the reason why? After watching 1979, which you can do again for any of those who are joining us, you can watch 1979. It'll be on YouTube. If you look in this chat, you'll see the link for 1979. Set your reminder for 1 p.m. 1979 right here. That's the link for it. Okay, right after Felipe's comment. We talked about that. We talked about this at great length. And Joey's kit was, Joey didn't have a kit. They gave him a really crappy kit to play on. Joey popped the snare during the sound check of the first show. They promised to get him a different kit. Joey left. Joey was also a junkie. He was a heroin addict, and was dope sick all the time. He was stealing money from the band, and he was taking money to get high, and it just was not working out. And he jetted out. You know what? It's wrong of me to say all that. He says it in his own words in 1979. So just watch that for Joey's take. Other takes will tell you that that's what happened. That he was, I mean, he had a heroin problem and he had to take care of it, and he took care of it any which way, by hook or crook, and it was just a whole big thing. Now, what's interesting, what is interesting is there was potentially a deal with CBS, right? They're supposed to audition for the Clash to be on a Clash tour. They had this guy, Derek, to be a manager. And in that way, had that worked out, I wonder if 12 Hits from Hell would have been put out by CBS Records. Would it have been called 12 Hits from Hell? No. But were some of those songs written already or being written? Sure, of course. London Dungeon would be written in England, and we all know what that's all about. But what would have, that would have been another bite at a major record release. Maybe the Misfits would have been on the same level. They would have been getting all this insane exposure from opening for the Clash. That would have put them up there in the same way that opening for the Damned really elevated their position. They would have further been elevated had they opened for the Clash, and they just couldn't get it. They couldn't get a drummer. It's funny. I hear all these musician guys talk about how, a drummer is worth their weight in gold and salt, and I guess it's true. Joey didn't like Captain Sensible. I think Bobby had a real problem with Captain Sensible. He punched him right in the face. And I think none of those guys got along with each other. Dave Vanian was accommodated them. They went all the way out to England. They had done press on the radio. You can hear the excerpt. Shout out to Joe Stoker for putting that on Instagram. You can hear Joey. I mean, you can hear the band talk, promoting that they're going over to England, but they don't have any contract signed, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. There's so much stuff. There's a whole pool of things one could look at on these message boards. I don't know how truly interesting they would all be, but man, there's definitely some gold. If you go digging, you'll find some stuff. Okay, I guess that's really it. I mean, does anybody want to come on? Anybody want to? You guys are so shy, man. You guys are watchers, not talkers. I'm putting the link in there one more time. I'll go through my rigmarole. If anybody wants to pop on real quick, any comments about the topic spoken about tonight, feel free. Glenn was also mad at Jerry for not renewing the contract. There was no contract to renew. There was no contract period. He just never got a contract signed. They went over there on on a half-assed oral agreement. That was it. That was it. So again, filler. This was a filler episode. 1979 coming. We'll have another new episode on Sunday that will also be live. And then next week, Friday the 13th, 1979. Boom. Check out Pizza Punk. 2 episodes back to back. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of not Facebook EVILIVE streaming show. I need a good name. I need a better name. Misfits EVILIVE streaming show. It just doesn't roll off the tongue anymore. I don't know. And also, I have another show called Jeff Reads Wikipedia, where I read really crazy Wikipedia articles. Robby, what's up, Robby? Come on, man. Hop on the show. Here you go. Here's the link, Robby. You want to chat? Because I'm about to peel out. I'm bouncing. I'm bouncing right now. I'm putting this link in here one more time. I wonder how they afforded to even stay over there as long as they did. I mean, it was all on Jerry's dad's credit card. You know, they were just scraping by. They had a guy, Derek, he put them up in a hotel. He was probably paying out of his pocket. Supposed to get him a drum set. Couldn't do that. They were in a hotel, man. They were not squatting, as far as I know. They were in a garden apartment or something. It was cold. Very, very cold, according to Joey. You know, I don't remember what Joey said in my interview with him. Here's the thing. I guess it's okay to talk about this because Joey's passed. I wouldn't have done it if he was alive. When I visited Joey, he was not well. He was he was involved with things, with substances, and I had no idea. I was completely not expecting that when I interviewed him. And so his interview, who knows what will turn up on that interview. Again, it's probably about 2 hours, maybe a little less than 2 hours, like an hour and 45 minutes. We definitely talked about England. We talked about a lot of stuff. He told me that, you know, Bobby would not be around. It would be him, Jerry, and Doyle when Doyle was 15, and they would jam out in the garage, in the pool house, doing practice. And again, not to get into the controversy of why that happened or how it happened, but that was Joey's point of view. When we sat down, he told me that. He said that Doyle would be jamming out with them towards the end. Doyle would be jamming out with them. And that was before they had even left for England. So, I mean, Doyle had been jamming with them for quite some time. But Doyle had been jamming with them before Googie even joined the band, according to Joey. So, oh, look who's coming in. Look who's here. What's up?
What's going on, man?
Can't hear you.
How's it going? Can't hear me?
Is your mic on?
It says my mic is on, man.
Man, why is that? Hello?
Hello? I could hear you.
There you are. No, it was my fault. My TV was not. There you go. What's up, man?
Okay.
Welcome to the show.
Much. I'm glad to be on it. Long
time listener, first time caller.
Yeah, I enjoyed 1979 a lot, man. I really did.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it, and it was very well. Like, I'll be honest. When I first saw that it was gonna be 3 hours, I was like, but there was no point in it where I was like, all right, no, let's keep it moving. Let's keep it. And the entire time, my attention, and I mean, I have bad ADD, was kept.
Thank you.
So I did enjoy that.
I even enjoyed. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I enjoyed the little things with who interviewed Joey in the videos that you posted.
Some guy found that. So here's the thing. That is none of that footage, except for, like, for instance, you see the no fun shirt in the video. The no fun shirt, that was shot at Bobby's
old apartment.
House. Right? No, not his apartment. That was shot at Postmortem Records, in his parents' house attic. No? Yeah. I met his mom before she passed away. Family resemblance is strong. Just in passing, in passing, that was our second interview, and he had a whole studio set up there, and that was Postmortem Records. I remember seeing like an envelope that was like labeled Postmortem, and so I just videotaped a whole bunch of his collection.
That's I wish I don't know why I did it. I wish he had that shit. So because now it's scattered. I mean, I know it was a lot. There was one person. I don't know if I'll say his name just because I don't want to.
No, you can.
But Umberto.
He's we've talked about that on here. Umberto initially acquired it,
and then I think he sold. I mean, I'm pretty sure he sold off some stuff.
That I don't know, but that I don't.
Dude, if Bobby sold off piece by piece that collection, that some of it what you showed, he could have made. I mean, quadruple of what he sold it for. And
matter of fact,
cool stuff. So much.
He had a lot of cool stuff. And what was, I think at the time he was married to the mother chick, and they were very happy together at the time. And I think that he just wanted to sort of put the past behind him. It's interesting. He doesn't really talk much about the Misfits anymore.
No.
In interviews, he doesn't want to talk about the Misfits. I understand why, but he just wants to, he'll turn down interviewers, and he just doesn't really want to, he'll graze over it. But when he did his little thing for 1979, he was willing to talk a little bit.
I do wonder why though, because for a while he was full balls with Misfits anything. I mean, even
I think he got tired of it.
I mean, even like 2008, I mean, I really enjoyed what he put out. I think it was 2008, 2007, the 12 Hits from Hell, the Undead version. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. He was talking. So I think we did our last interview in late 2011, maybe, and he was talking about the Misfits all the way up till then. And then I want to say it had to be around somewhere between 2011 and 2015, where he just got tired, or he didn't want to do it anymore. Something happened, and he's people are like asking him questions like about the John Lennon story or whatever, and he's like, I don't want to talk about that. Like straight up, he don't want to talk about that.
Puking on John Lennon either, but
I mean, listen, I am a diehard Beatles fan, and I know that I think it's funny though. I think Bobby is the way he sounds interviews. I'm not saying that. I don't want to put any words in Bobby's mouth because I don't actually know, but I feel like he's probably embarrassed by that story now. Like he doesn't, because he's such a big Beatles fan.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so long ago. That's such a cool little.
Dude, it's the most punk rock thing in the history of punk rock. Like that is punk rock.
What's crazy?
This is the collection. Hold on one second. This is the collection we're referring to that I videotaped. I don't think the sound is on. Sorry for these ads. Oh, this thing. Come on. There it is. So all that stuff behind him, he had his collection on full display when we did this. What's going on, Rue Morgue?
And that Twilight Zone shirt was originally Jerry's. There's a photo shoot with
him. And if you see that in the in 1979, I videotaped that shirt. Yeah. So I put that in as well. And right behind him right here, that's the No Fun shirt. That's the animal print shirt. That's the Have a Merry Christmas. That's the show where the Christmas show that's recorded with Blue Christmas. And yeah, you can see the Twilight shirt is right here. And this is in his parents' attic, of his parents' house. And
if I'm not mistaken, that guitar amp is the same one he used for Horror Business.
All of that stuff is Misfits stuff. All of it. And he dude, he was ready to just move on, and he got rid of a whole bunch of stuff. Not just that, a lot of Undead stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
And it just,
I remember at my local guitar center, he had his he must have sold to them just exclusively he had I think it was like maybe a Thunderbird guitar, and it was
it
was beautiful, and it was going for like $3,000 though, and that's just off what that guitar goes for at that time. Never mind that it was in the Misfits or it was used by Bob Steele, So that was
it's interesting. He would have made a lot more money off of that collection had he sold it piece by piece. But at the same time, it's like the patience required to do piece by piece, and getting everything in one lump sum, whatever the lump sum may be. I could see how that could be appealing as well, because the amount of think about all the work hours you got to put in just to sell that stuff. You got to make sure everybody pays. You got to do that for each piece. You got to be really dedicated to cashing out.
But even just like looking at this, like the guitar amp alone, even though take away the fact that it was used on Horror Business, I mean, that alone was thousands upon thousands. I mean, I don't know. There's just too much.
Why is that? Is it because it's like a vintage amp?
I think it was like 1970s. I mean, well, it had to be 1970s Marshall. That nowadays automatically puts it in the thousands. You know what I mean?
James Gruesome in the house. James, how are you?
How you doing, James?
Freaking, I don't know if you're Robbie. I don't know if you're familiar with the Gruesomes. They're awesome.
Yeah, very nice. I know them. Yeah, I know them. Great people.
Great people. Oh, that's right. Because yes, of course. Okay. Yes. Thanks for saying hello, James. You got to come on here sometime. Have a chat with us. Yeah, dude. I don't understand all that guitar stuff. I listen to Loki and Joe talk, and I hear them talking about all this gear stuff on their show, and I'm just like, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. But I guess from a perspective of like the parts are super, like they don't make those parts anymore, and therefore they give you a specific sound that you may not be able to emulate now, even with like software. And
I mean, time changes everything. Like it just and plus everything back then was made so much better. I mean, just like cars that I guess that's a good comparison, like a classic car to a car now. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
But
gotcha.
I mean, you can nerd out on that shit forever.
But, I know the Pixies, who I'm a huge Pixies fan. Pixies play super vintage gear from the 60s, and I guess it's key to their sound. Yeah. So, they play like I don't know, they play on like surf guitar sort of. Oh no, Joey plays on a 58 Gibson, and I don't know what Frank Black plays on something from 1965. And it's like they've been playing the same instruments for almost 40 years now, I guess.
Yeah.
Rue says old school tube amps. So it's like and isn't that the thing where you got to heat up the tubes, right?
Yeah, usually you should leave your amp on if you have a tube amp for like 10 15 minutes before you actually start playing it, because most amps, they're actual glass tubes, so they heat up, you know what I mean, in the back of them. I've accidentally touched it after a gig. You will burn your hands off.
Wow.
It's freaking hot. But as most amps today are solid state, there's no glass tubes within it, because tubes are fragile, and like on the road, sometimes they can break, they can blow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why most people use solid state, just for convenience of not having to change anything.
Interesting. That's really interesting. So I've seen those little tiny orange amps. That's all solid state in there?
No, a lot of orange amps have tubes in them, even the tiny ones.
Wow.
Actually, I have you'll appreciate. I have it's called a mini Beatle. It's what the
Yeah.
Beatles use, but it's a mini one. And it has this is nerd talk, but it has a chip in it that emulates a tube, and it sounds exactly like a tube amp, even though it's tiny and it's lunchbox sized. You know what I mean? But that's little amps. People laugh. Little amps are, in my opinion, especially in the studio, better than big amps. That's why, like, November's Coming Fire, it has that like really driven sound because they use such a tiny little amp. I remember Damien talking about it in an interview only a couple years ago, how when he recorded all his shit, he was with a tiny little amp. And that's why it sounds the way it does, that driven sound. And same with Bobby, he was talking about it in year 79, using the little crate amp that bled into Jerry's bass. But that's why it sounds like that.
Yeah, and that's what gives it a unique sound. It's like the bass bleed through supercharges his track, like, and vice versa. Like the bleed through is what makes it so the way that it is.
Exactly.
I think you'll appreciate this as both a musician, as a music lover, and as a recording artist. I was listening. I used to be, and still am. This is a little embarrassing to admit. I love and loved, even more so, Sublime. I love that band. Great band for a lot of reasons. That album, 40 Ounces of Freedom, it's an insane album. It's a feat of recording engineering for a lot of different reasons. It's like legendary in that. And you know what's funny about like Sublime and the Misfits are sort of the same in the sense that this band does this thing, and then you have all these bands that are just trying to emulate. Yeah, it's the same thing. And the thing is, it goes back to like, you know, not everybody agrees with this, and my opinions have definitely changed since I've gotten to know other bands in the horror punk community. I really don't want to slag on anybody, because I do think people do some stuff that's fresh and different sometimes. But you know, my opinion growing up when I would hear other horror punk stuff was always like, why even listen to anything? Just listen to Misfits. Misfits did it.
I completely. I mean, that's why Misfits did it. That's why Bloodshed, when they started, were something so different, because it wasn't just the Misfits again. And that's why I think a lot of horror punk bands miss the mark, because they just try to do what the Misfits, just cheesy.
Yeah, but it's also what Bloodshed has. It's also in their their later recording techniques and expanding on the way they recorded stuff too. But like, my point with all this is Sublime is the same thing. Sublime did this thing. They took punk rock and ska, and they bridged those two together through reggae. So reggae, or I should say, bad analogy. They fused, if punk is on one side of the spectrum, right? Mm-hmm. Reggae is on the other side of the spectrum, and they use ska as the bridge to go back and forth between going slow and going fast. So instead of doing, you know, the Bad Brains are literally just doing like hardcore punk rock song into reggae song, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And what Sublime did, Sublime were heavily influenced by the Bad Brains. They would use those ska to sort of go as a bridge between the two. And that made and every band copied them. Like every single band, like they're all these like white boy reggae bands that are just doing, and none of them sound, you know, for some reason that one dude is able to do that. He's able to sing that way and sound that way, and it sounds really authentic. It doesn't sound like, you know, he's a white boy trying to do some reggae patois nonsense, you know, that sort of thing. And that's why they're often imitated but never equaled. But to get to my point, I was listening to a podcast with Miguel, the guy who produced it, and he was talking about recording geeky stuff. So those dudes were obsessed with dance hall music, and dance hall music uses programmed drums. Everything is programmed, right? Yeah. And so and I challenge you to go and listen to this album. This blew my mind. I've been listening to this album for 20 years, and I suddenly heard these songs in a new light. What they did to get the dance hall feel but make the drums sound unique, they pre-programmed some of the drums. So like the snare, I guess, like some of the bassy drum noise, all the bassy drum stuff, that's all pre-programmed drum machine. And then what they did was they practice, It had something to do with preamps. Something I don't understand that. It's something to do with they only had 4 good preamps. I don't know what that means. It's something to do with the whatever they were recording. And so what he did was they went back in all the hi-hats, and all the certain other parts of the drum kit were done by hand, and they fused the two together. No click track.
That's impressive, you know.
And that what they did was they would just practice the songs over and over again. And then what he did was he would do it. They did the pre-programmed stuff, and then he would just add. He was just adding. This blew my mind because I was like, I thought that he was playing a kit.
It would be so hard to do, not to a click.
Dude, it's maybe they did do it to a click. Maybe I'm making that up. I'm pretty sure they didn't do it to a click though.
I mean, in the 90s, they weren't using metronomes like they do now. I mean, everybody uses metronomes now. It's just the standard.
Yeah.
Because it makes editing so much easier. But
right.
It didn't. Right. That didn't become a norm until like, I mean, I would say the 2000s. You know what I mean?
Felipe, send me that. Send that to the DM that to. I remember those posts. I used to read those posts on MySpace. Send me that on. I don't know if you're connected to the Lodi Facebook page, but send that over. We'll definitely take a look at that. And I'd love to hear again, as we do here, Robby, where we look at people talk about certain things in different mindsets. Jerry only being the most fascinating one of all.
I do wonder if Glenn was a Beatles fan. I do wonder.
I don't think he was. You know, Robby, I was thinking about this very thing today because I was listening again to Danzig Sings Elvis. I moved the record player upstairs, and I turned on Danzig Sings Elvis and listened to it all the way through. Haven't listened to it for about 6 months since it came out, and let me tell you what, that I stand by every single thing that I said about that album. I think it's even better. It's only grown better since I listened to it the first time. I don't have a bad thing to say about that album. It's phenomenal.
I love Pocket Full of Rainbows. It's such an emotional.
Best song in 25 years, man. Best song in 25 years.
It's so good. It's so good. His voice on that is really good. And the piano, the simplicity of it is just, it makes it, you know.
The minimalism is what makes it so good. But also, I'm not going to lie, there are some clunkers. One Night with You is a clunker. It's not good. It doesn't work.
I'm not going to talk shit, but I don't like Tommy Victor's playing on that album. It doesn't fit. Like, everything has time and place.
Yeah. I actually think he did a good job, dude.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work on Always on My Mind.
Wait, are you kidding me? You mean when that guitar solo comes in?
Does not work. Not even kind of. Because especially
totally disagree with you.
If you listen to the original version that he put out when he first announced the Danzig Sings Elvis, like if you listen to the radio, I think it was on the radio, and somebody has that on YouTube without the guitar solo. It does not.
I have heard that, dude.
It doesn't add.
I have to disagree with you. I'll tell you why. Because I'm listening to the song, I'm getting you get lost in it because it's so good. You're getting lost in it. As a matter of fact, I made this comparison and I stand by what I said. There is a track on there that is American Nightmare, and there's a track on there that's Sistina's.
Which one would you switch?
Baby, Let's Play House. Here's the thing that this is like, I don't know if Glenn meant for this, but I stand by what I said. This is a personal record, whether he wants to admit it or not.
Oh, totally.
Instead of writing about things that like happened to him, he's using Elvis from his childhood to sort of like, it's a filter, and it's like a shield from like a personal, whatever the personal emotion. You feel it in the performances.
Good perspective.
He's putting so much heart and soul into that. Instead of Black Lady and Crown just feels like, you know, more of the same of like, you know, Black Forest School, you know, like, and then he puts out this, and this has like, you know, he's singing about You Were the First in Line. And I just can't help but imagine that like Glenn is singing about some girl, some crush that he had, and how that song meant something to him. And again, that's all my speculation, but that's my theory. I think it's a very personal album.
I mean, that makes sense. I didn't think of it from that perspective, but I do like that he chose some songs that you wouldn't like. When would you, 10 years ago, would you ever think Glenn would sing a song called Pocket Full of Rainbows?
That's why it's so punk rock. That's why it's so great.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I love when artists do something so crazy like that.
And when you look at bad reviews for the album and they say, oh, he's not singing in key, they're using all this like technical stuff to talk about, how, freaking, like, oh, he's not singing in key, he's not doing this, not doing that. It's just like, it's like what you just said about click tracks versus like just playing to the feel. He's just singing it, dude. He's just singing the song. What's wrong with that? As a non-musician, Robby, as someone who doesn't know whether you're in key or not, and just going by like, wow, this has emotion and I'm appreciating it, I don't see anything wrong with it.
No, the mix is a little whatever, but that's just Glenn doing what he wants. But the performance of his vocals is there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's how I feel about 3. I think 3 is mixed so flat, like it doesn't have any depth dimension. I like the live versions of those songs. I like so much more. I feel like the studio versions of those songs they're just so, I don't know, they just don't have.
I love the drum sound on that album. I think that's one of Chuck's best drum sound, like just that massive like room sound. I think Danzig 4
great album. I love 3.
3 is great. I think people start to shy away, but I think 4 was really well done.
Thank you, Felipe.
4 was just, his vocals were next level, and I love 5 too. Even though 5 gets hated, Ashes is his best vocal.
Samhain
album. I will always say this: Ashes was his best and one of the most risky vocal performances that he has done.
Why do you say that?
Listen to the register that he sings in and the notes that he sings. It's almost falsetto, which he's never done.
Yeah.
If you listen to Ashes, like, really, it's almost falsetto, and it's really interesting.
Okay.
It's interesting.
Okay. I will definitely give it another listen. To go back to Danzig Sings Elvis for a minute, Baby Let's Play House is the reason why I said that's American Nightmare. I'm not saying that it is American Nightmare, but like, I feel like that's where the inspiration for something like American Nightmare comes from. And always on my mind is Sestina's, even with the kettle drums. I mean, it's Sestina's, man. It's totally like, that's where those songs come from. And then to go back to what you initially said, you said to me, do you think Glenn was a fan of the Beatles? I think he definitely liked the Beatles on some level, but I think he kind of circumvents the Beatles, to be honest with you. And not in like a way of like, go ahead. Sorry.
And what way do you mean that? I was going to say.
So, all right. So Tim Somer wrote this article that you should tell Mark to read, because I know Mark likes the Beatles like you do. He wrote this article about how the Beatles music was evolving, and music evolution kind of stopped when the Beatles perfected the format. And what the format is guitar, drums, and bass. And that, like, every band, even though obviously no bands are the same because they use those instruments, but just that became the basic template for, in the same way that sort of like you have like the classic, you have guitar, bass, singer, and drums, or you have 2 guitarists, 1 bass, 1 drum, like all these things kind of the Beatles brought that. This is what he wrote, that the Beatles brought this into the mainstream, and that music was kind of broken in the sense that, and then, this dude, Tim, Tim from Noise the Show. He used to interview the Misfits. He used to have a radio show called Noise the Show, Tim Somer. And he's actually in my documentary. But he wrote this article. He's a huge Beatles fan, or he's a Beatles nut. Although he'll always champion the Beach Boys over the Beatles. And what's up, Russell Casualty? How are you? you know, he I don't know, man. He was going on about this, and he's like big on Kraftwerk. He thinks Kraftwerk is like super revolutionary and suicide, probably because they do break that mold, that guitar, drum, bass mold. And I mean, the Misfits kind of did too, and by doing what they, just doing keyboards. And so, but he's saying, but like music was different before the Beatles.
I didn't think of that, but that's true. I mean, look at the Animals or like the Doors. They all had, you know, like a keyboardish style thing and bass, and I never really thought about that.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's, I'm not saying that it's a fact. I'm just saying
no, but that makes sense though, why he would say such a thing.
Right. And so, but it's like Glenn, and you know, this goes back to the Little Fiend series that we did. Glenn was really into Elvis.
Yeah.
Right. And so the Misfits are kind of like, in a weird kind of way, the Misfits are kind of like, they kind of circumvent the Beatles in that sort of way. Maybe not an instrumentation, but the instrumentation is more of a, it's like, it's the Black Sabbath format, right? Mm-hmm. Front man, guitar player, bass player, drummer. Led Zeppelin format, Who format, you know, Ramones format, but like the idea of like the music almost is secondary to the voice, like Elvis and his backing band. Because what was, you know, I mean, everybody knows Elvis's backing band, they're famous, but you know, you're not thinking about, what are you thinking about when you listen to Hound Dog? You're thinking about the voice.
Yeah.
Right. And so the Misfits, it's all centered around the voice. The music is the backbone for which the melody sails on top. And so the Misfits are like a crooners band in that kind of way.
Yeah.
Crooning Ramones.
That makes sense.
And so I think Glenn kind of circumvents the Beatles.
I mean, in as much, I know it's an edgy thing to do now, is to hate on the Beatles. Oh, the Beatles.
I hate that.
It's obnoxious. It's obnoxious. No, but the thing is, even if you don't like the Beatles, you have to admit the inspiration that they gave everybody and the influence that they left. So even if you don't like the Beatles, in some way, even if you're a regular just punk rock musician, you were inspired, trickled down from the Beatles.
Yeah. And you know, like, and you know, you just think about, actually I have a video coming out. I talked with the Dictators bass player, Andy Chernoff, and we talked about were the Ramones as influential as the Beatles. And when bringing up the Beatles, here's what you have to remember. And you know, as someone who writes music all the time, imagine touring around the world, shooting 2 films, shooting tons of TV appearances, and writing 4 singles and 2 LPs, and doing that 2 years in a row.
It doesn't happen today. It doesn't happen
singles. Today. 1 quarterly single. You're doing a single per quarter with a B-side, and those singles are not allowed to be on the album. They wouldn't put them on the album. So if you look at the Beatles catalog, you'll see that the Beatles never had a single on the actual album.
That's unique too, because I mean, everybody usually takes the best song from an album,
right? Yeah. And that's why the Beatles are the GOAT. They're the greatest of all time, no matter what anybody says. And they invented so many things that recording artists came from
doubling vocals.
Doubling vocals. John Lennon was lazy. Yeah, man. Exactly. You just can't. You should read. I'm sure Mark has told you to read it. If you read it Here, There, and Everywhere.
No, I have not.
Dude, especially as a guy, you know, Robbie's all about like exploring the sonic landscape with all the various things he's done and is going to do in the future and whatnot. I would imagine that you would be the guy that would be out there reading Here, That. You got to read it, dude.
No, it's not that I'm against. I'll look into that. You know.
And you should also look into here's another recommendation for you, especially with your future endeavors. Listen to the Pixies' Surfer Rosa, whether you like it or not, because Steve Albini, who recorded that album, he engineered the album. He's from Big Black, and he also did Nirvana. And
I know Steve Albini.
Okay, so Steve Albini like recorded this album in like the craziest way. Like he recorded them in bathrooms and like all this like weird, like he recorded like the drum kit was in a bathtub or something, like just really insane stuff. And Surfer Rosa sounds the way that it does because of all these interesting techniques. And it's definitely worth like sort of looking into if you're just into recording music. As someone who doesn't record music, I find it fascinating. I love the process. I find it
I love more and more I've been diving into the recording process of it, like because I've been acquiring over the past couple of years now a home studio. Right. But I don't want a home studio that sounds like shit, so I save up and I get the proper stuff that I need, you know.
You want to know something though? And I know this like probably goes against what every musician really like loves and like cares about. Like I think I kind of say, again, coming from a non-musician perspective, I always like to put those disclaimers before I say what I say. I say phooey to all that, because what makes a good sound? If you get an interesting sound, like that sounds cool, then it sounds cool. I mean, you can like manipulate it sonically in the computer. Then
yes and no, because sometimes you don't want to just listen to something that's just recorded like in a trash bag. And a good analogy for that, or a good comparison, what would you rather listen to, Legacy or Static Age?
Funny you should ask. So I told you how I busted out my records, and I just listened to Legacy for the first time.
Don't tell me that you like that better than Static Age.
So here's what's interesting.
I'm Xing out of here.
No. Here's what's interesting. Actually, I really need to do a whole episode on this. Because I have to do side-by-side comparisons, but what I was really trying to listen to on my system, I was trying to see if it sounded like, so I always thought that Glenn had played, had taped over the guitar and bass.
I don't think he had the master tracks to actually remove it. So what he did was just pile on top of it.
That's exactly what first of all, wait a minute. Didn't he have the master tracks? And isn't that why they used the mix? They had a mix down tape from Franche Coma. That's where Static Age comes from. It doesn't come from the master tapes. So I'm not, I don't know about that. I think he did do, actually, Robbie, I think it's the reverse. I think because he effed up the master tapes, they then went to the mix down tape because he had recorded over their stuff.
You could hear Jerry's stuff.
Yes, you can. And that's what I wanted to say, is that I was listening. I'm going, whoa, he just like, I guess he thickened it up, right? Like he just put guitar and bass on top of it. And it changes the sound of these recordings completely. Like it doesn't sound the same at all.
I think Static Age is a flawless sounding punk record.
I don't know if I hate it. I don't know. I think I grew up, listen, before I had Static Age, I had Legacy. So Legacy's like
night and day, man.
I don't know
which one's better.
I don't know. Do you like Teenagers on Horror Business more than Teenagers on Static Age?
All right. I like the musicianship better on Static Age because it's way tighter, but I like the energy on the single version.
Yeah, I'm hands down Horror Business era Teenagers from Mars.
But the thing is, like, this is unbiased. I mean, I think Jim is just a better drummer than Joey. So listening,
he's totally 100%. He's a better drummer than Joey. He's the best drummer they ever had. He's the best drummer they had.
It's the musicianship in me listening to the Static Age version as opposed to the Horror Business.
And we were talking the other day, and I have to tell you, I do agree that Jim kind of sets the precedent for
easy,
like them as because isn't like the saying is that you're only as good as your drummer, or you're only as tight as your drummer, and Jim is the tightest drummer there is.
He's the conductor, he's the one who drives the band. Without him, you know what I mean? You can get a robo. That's why the Misfits in 2008 with Robo is they're just playing fucking bullet speed, and it sounds like how it sounded. Not that good.
Yeah, but they're playing bullet speed, but they're not getting any of the fills. Like that was what was so great about Jim, was that Jim was playing fast, but Jim was still doing all these precision fills and
so good.
Oh God, he really the playing on Static Age really is insane. And to think that they did that live, he didn't do, at least according to 1979, the interview that I took that I put into 1979, they didn't do any overdubs for the drumming or anything.
The only thing he said he overdubbed was on Return of the Fly.
Right.
There's a double snare, and that gives it that sound. And he told me that a lot of that he didn't know going into it. Like, they basically all right, we're gonna do this one. It's like this, and then that amazing.
Oh wait. Say that again.
That a lot of it was he didn't learn it until very, very close to the studio date.
Right. But now here's my question to you. And here's what I wonder. And I had that whole section in 1979 about how Glenn uses guys. Glenn has the ideas in his head, but then he uses guys as extensions. Yeah, Joe, I had a conversation with Joe about this, and I love the way that he put it. Glenn uses people as extensions for his visions and his ideas, right? Mm-hmm. He can't do the playing. But he knows how he kind of wants it to play. Mm-hmm. Glenn could never do what Jim did. So how much of Jim's flavor?
It's so much on it, because if you listen to Continental Crawler, there's a song called Mr. Jim something. It's just a drum solo, and it's recorded around the same time as Static Age. So if you listen to just Jim's solo drumming, many of his fills are on Static Age. The beginning of Hyper Moments. Oh, listen to his drum solo on the Continental Crawler album. It's on YouTube. It's just a drum solo for 2 minutes of him just playing his classic swings and whatnot.
See, that just tells you what happened was that Glenn was like, I kind of want it to be like.
He probably just said, give me a drum roll, give me a drum intro, and Hyper Moments was just all right, because he loves using that fill, that boom, 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 boom. It's all over that drum solo from Continental Crawler. Listen to that, and then listen to anything from Static Age, and you'll be like, that's Jim. Recognize shit.
I think I like the Spinal Remains on Legacy more than I like it on Static Age. I remember listening to that and thinking, I don't know. I remember thinking it was pretty great.
I see. The thing is, for me, Jerry's bass drives a lot of Static Age too.
It's non-existent on Legacy. It's gone on Legacy.
Exactly. That's what
I agree with that. On that, I can agree with, and it shows you. People really like to slag on Jerry for a lot of stuff, but it shows you that his bass playing really did add something to the chemistry.
What's weird is Jerry used to play with a pick, and that's what was on Static Age, him playing with a pick, and he used to do all these great little runs, like the beginning of Return of the Fly. Comeback has fills all over it. And it's, what I mean? It made those songs. Without it, it would sound boring, because French Coma didn't really do anything aside from just basic power chords, aside from Theme for a Jackal. But everything else was Jerry driving it with those little runs.
And I mean, I didn't know this. I mean, or Jerry makes mention of this in the interview that's in 1979 as well, being that Jim, that Frank was, very, new. He was sort of reintroduced to guitar. He was a new player. He was relatively new, and that's what Jerry wanted to bring that into the band, and that definitely contributed to what you were saying about him just playing power chords or whatnot. And I think that might be why. I'll tell you this too. I remember listening to Theme for a Jackal on Legacy and liking that a whole lot too. I'm thinking, man,
that one I will say is cool on Legacy, just because of how reverberated it is, and
that's what I'm saying
going on.
You get so much more. And you know what I noticed on, and maybe Glenn did this when he was overdubbing stuff, but there's a Theme for a Jackal. The piano is driving it. The guitar is feedback, right?
There's the weirdest noises and the weirdest chords for Theme for a Jackal that are not chords, but weirdest notes that he's hitting that just don't make sense.
Is he doing any strumming? It just sounds like feedback to me. I can't hear any strumming.
It's just single notes hitted, and they don't really make sense, but they do. It's kind of like a Kurt Cobain thing where he plays notes that in theory don't make sense. but in the context of the song, really make it eerie and like flow well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Here's the thing though, and I was talking about this with someone the other day. While I definitely think when it comes to like playing and sounding as tight as they were, the best band, if you had to do what's overall, what's the best band? I guess Static Age Band. But first of all, I love the musical chemistry of the Horror Business Band, whether Joey Image is a meat and potatoes drummer or not, because I love Bobby's guitar playing. But even more so, it's the image. They didn't have that image in the Static Age Band, you know.
Even though I do love the way they looked on that Static Age.
They look cool, but they just look like they're just so they're awkward. They don't know what they are yet.
No. It didn't.
And
it didn't
Horror
work.
Business, it all. And you know what the thing about Horror Business too? The reason why I like it so much is it's like the Three Bears scenario. It's not too hot and it's not too cold. It's just right in terms of the horror stuff. It's not like big metal spikes and like super long devil locks. It's like just the right amount of greaser.
Yeah, no, I completely
love the musicianship. The Doyle is not into the band yet, so they still have the musicianship. That's like there. And I was saying this to someone else the other day as well about like, you know, the perfect band, the unstoppable band, truly. And I don't know if they would have gone, they probably wouldn't have done Earth AD. Would have been, you know, it's like let's bring in Doyle. Let's bring Doyle into the band, put him on rhythm, have Bobby doing only leads. And it would have they would have killed.
12 Hits is a perfect punk album. In my opinion.
Pretty great. Like it's pretty great. But I mean, I wonder what direction does that band go in? They probably record 12 Hits from Hell, which means Walk Among Us never comes out. And then where do they go from there? Do they get signed? You know, do they stay together all throughout the 80s and then Danzig breaks off in the 90s and goes solo Danzig?
I don't think he would have stayed. I don't think he would have stayed, even if they got famous.
Danzig?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, eventually he would have moved on, you know. But let me ask you this: what do you think about all my theories and musings on Earth AD and Samhain and that sort of jazz?
What do you mean?
Just the idea of where Earth AD ends and Samhain begins in terms of like
lyrically it flows. I don't think they sound musically anything like.
Really?
I don't think that.
You don't think any of those Earth AD songs could be Samhain songs and vice versa?
The only one I could see is maybe Blood Feast. The only one. I mean, could you imagine Samhain playing like Earth AD?
See, that's what I want to imagine. I want to imagine that.
I can't. It's just such a different band because I love Steve's tribal sound to his drums.
You know what? It would be Earth. You know what Earth AD would be? It would be super effing slow. It would be like all the same stuff. No, dude, it would be so cool because it would just be like, I can't do it. But it would just be like
metal.
No, but it was just like those, you know, the boom, 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 but the drums would be more like tribal, like, you know, doing the, you know, and Oni mentioned what Mr. Jim doing the howl. That would be phenomenal. That would have sounded really cool.
That would be great.
He would crush that track. But Mr. Jim can't do. I don't feel like Mr. Jim is not, even though he's a fast player. That's Earth AD is not him. Like
no, it wouldn't have fit his style.
It wouldn't have. That wouldn't work, and that's why
I think they could have done it back in the day, like
maybe back in the day.
Because listen to Bullet. I mean, Bullet is
super fast, and
Bullet,
he's doing fills.
The thing is, Bullet is harder to play than anything on Earth AD.
Really,
I think so, because a lot of what Earth AD's drums are, as fast as they are, they're not doing like 16th notes on the hi-hat like Bullet is. There are a lot of just when Bullet is it's much harder to keep that rhythm on the 16th of the hi-hat and the ride.
What about what he's doing with She, the Static Age version of She?
That's all fast 16 still.
Here's what I like what Horse says here. Horse says Coffin Dungeon kind of have the moody proto Samhain feel. Well, they did Dungeon in Samhain,
definitely,
but it's kind of done like Misfits style. It's not done like you think they would have gotten more death rocky with it because it's a very death rock song. They don't really go anywhere with it.
What do you think of the collection, Cough Cool?
I like it. I like all the Cough Cools, man. But I think I would love to see a Samhain version of Cough Cool. Would have been insane.
Yeah,
that would have been cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Cough Cool. Yeah, no, I like that version. I like that version a lot. There's no for me. There's no bad thing. I will say I even have a new appreciation for the 7-inch versions of the songs on Horror Business and Night of the Living Dead, which always were never my favorite versions of those songs, except for Teenagers and Children in Heat. I loved. Freaking love Rat Fink.
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead. What's the middle song on Night of the Living Dead? Is
Where Eagles Dare.
Where Eagles Dare. No, yeah. Where Eagles Dare, not really. Night of the Living Dead, not really. And Horror Business, not really. It's the Night of the Living Dead on 12 Hits and Collection 1. Those are like, for me, the two I love.
I love the slowness of it though. And like Bobby's guitar set, because he really does some cool like riffs on Night of the Living Dead on the single version.
What's up, Loki?
Oh, what's up? Well, he probably wants to see my chest hair. He keeps talking about it.
Yeah. What do you think about Loki? What do you think about the drumming on Static Age versus the drumming on Earth AD, which is more crazy? Wonder what Loki will say.
Now, let me ask you, Steph. What do you think of the Googie Bobby lineup versus the Joey Bobby lineup?
Well, here's the thing. We never got to hear. We never got to hear it.
Well, 12 hits.
I guess. I guess I don't know if I can count that. I feel like I have to hear them live. I don't know.
No, I don't know. Hey, listen, compare the studio. I mean, the studio is really where you're gonna find the.
So what do I think of it? I mean, I guess it's okay.
Which is better?
Wait, say it again. What was the question?
Which is better, the Joey or the Googie version?
Of
with
Night of the Living Dead?
No, of that. Which lineup is better? The Googie.
Oh, which lineup is better? Googie.
Yeah,
I think Googie. I don't know, man. You know what's interesting? Here's the other thing too. This kind of blew my mind. Bevan Davies, who played with Glenn on Circle of Snakes.
Yep.
I interviewed him for this project, and he blew my mind with something that kind of like, and I'm sure Loki will probably disagree or shake his head at me. Maybe you will too. First of all, I'm not into Dave Lombardo. I told you this actually already. Not into Dave Lombardo doing the Misfits stuff. And I couldn't put my finger on what it is. And I think what it is that he just plays it too straight. It's not, and that's the kind of interesting thing about Googie.
I wouldn't say he's too straight. I would say he's
sloppy.
No.
Like, Googie is, I mean.
He plays everything exactly how it was on the record.
Who does?
Dave.
It doesn't.
He plays the Static Age version of Teenagers. If you notice, he doesn't play the Joey Image version of Teenagers.
Slow. It's slow and it's slow and soggy. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that. I just think that it just doesn't have the same. Listen, again, they sound amazing live. Do not want to take away from that in any way, shape, or form. But when like I hear him do, I just feel like there doesn't have the same soul that say Mr. Jim would add.
Who would you have then? Like, who would be a big name that is in a land that's not Misfits area? Because I'm sure they didn't want to use anybody that they've had before.
Well, to be honest, my number one choice would have been Steve Zing for a billion reasons. Because Steve Zing can play hardcore. He can do Samhain stuff. He can do, he can definitely do Misfits. He has the range for sure. And he also has the history. And for those two reasons, he's the number one. But if I couldn't have anybody from the Misfits,
yeah, exactly. Nobody from that.
Man,
I actually heard a rumor of Dave Grohl.
What?
I heard that. I mean, that's just internet fucking bullshit, but I did hear that. That would have been something.
Loki, I didn't predetermine that I didn't like it. I went to 3 times to the shows, and I just noticed the way that he was playing, and I just didn't. It just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't really. And listen, it's not like I'm not a drum head like you guys. I don't friggin' know, but it just doesn't. It didn't jive for me, man. I just feel like it's even like on Earth AD, you know, the drum, the rolling, just all that stuff. It just doesn't. It just feels too robotic to me. I don't know. It just doesn't.
You got to admit though, at least Dave isn't like overdoing it, which everybody.
No, he's not.
That's what everybody thought he was gonna. Oh, he's gonna overdo. He's just a metal guy. No, he could do any. He really could do any style. I mean,
Oni says that Dave is missing the 50s feel. I think the Earth AD tracks he does are great though. I mean,
that's a fair assessment.
I think that's a fair assessment. Who do I think they should have got instead of Lombardo? I don't know. I'm trying to think of that while I'm still talking. I'm trying to figure that out right now.
Dave Grohl would have been a good. Dave Grohl would have been.
You know what? Dave Grohl would have done it. Dave Grohl would have done it. Stone. I don't know who Roy from Stone Sour is. Chuck Biscuits. I mean, yeah, but nobody from the Misfits, Samhain, Danzig camp. All right, this is super embarrassing.
Uh-oh.
Oh man, I'm gonna get so much crap for this, but I don't know why the name keeps popping up in my head when I'm thinking about it.
Who?
Going outside. Okay, first of all, maybe all right, number one, I would say who's the drummer of NoFX?
I don't listen to NoFX.
Does anybody know who's the drummer of NoFX? The long-term drummer. He would work. I think he would do a good job. I think Doyle's guy from the Doyle band, the young kid, Brendan, he would have done it. Great job. Even though he's like kind of young, I don't know if he would fit the look feel, but he's got the chops. I think the NoFX guy probably would have done a great job. I know this sounds so stupid. I don't know why this is in my head. Okay, his name is Smelly. Right, this is embarrassing. Wait, I heard Dave Grohl was approached for Danzig after.
I've heard that as well, Adam.
What?
I've heard that as well. I have.
What? Eric Sandin. No, is that Smelly from NoFX? Whoa, Dave Grohl. That would have been an interesting choice. No,
he's a monster hitter.
All right, this is so embarrassing because I really think this dude is kind of whack, but I think he would have done a good job. Travis Barker.
I was about to say.
Really?
Saw him,
really?
I swear to God. Well, you know why I was going to say? Because I saw him perform Hybrid Moments with the Misfits on YouTube, and he did a phenomenal job. He has that swing, but he also has like a metal edge, and he hits super hard. He would have fit perfect. I heard rumors too that Travis Barker was asked for it as well.
Oh, real? Wait. Travis Barker was?
I heard that from multiple people that he was definitely a contender for doing it.
Oh man, that would have been killer. Hold on 1 second. That would have been killer, man. I think he would have done.
He's a great drummer. Blink-182, like.
Chud wishes. Chud wishes that he
ain't doing shit.
Chud was in the skybox at the whatchamacallit, just going just like wishing.
You know, I
think Loki does it the best, dude. Loki does it the best.
I saw Chud walking into Madison Square Garden.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, he didn't say hello to me. He won't come by me, but he looked amazing. He came in with pink hair, the Chud shirt, and the nonsense.
He had pink hair that night. I didn't see him.
I wonder if he probably paid for his ticket. He ain't getting a ticket for free. Who would have gotten?
He was in someone's skybox. But here's what I always wondered. I was like, did he have any juice with anybody? You know?
I mean, I can't imagine Doyle talking to him.
Well, he always makes it. By the way, I saw an interview with him on YouTube somebody sent it to me, and it was like everything that I had confirmed, where he's just literally like he's just like doing all this weird stuff to the camera. They should have had me playing drums. I'm not that good. It would have been perfect. Hey. Adam says he heard that Travis Barker rumor also. Yeah, there were a lot of different lineups. I've talked about this before. There were a lot of different lineups at that Madison Square Garden show. Truly. But yeah, I think Travis Barker would have been a good fit. He would have been he could play fast. You know,
he's a great drummer. He's a great drummer.
Yeah, he's a good drummer. I don't know. I think Blink 182 is kind of like, I don't know, they're kind of embarrassing. I just like just not so like I don't know.
I mean, I like a couple songs, but they're not.
I like Damn It. Damn It's a good song.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, they have a couple of good songs. They're just not.
Oh, Loki has it perfect. Bill Stevens.
Oh yeah.
Dude.
Descendants would have been.
Dude, I that's my pick right there. Freaking Bill.
Yeah, he's right.
Stevenson would have been perfect. And here's the thing about Bill Stevenson that blows my mind. I've watched him with I watched him with Flag when they played with TSOL at Irving Plaza. And freaking this is how Bill Stevenson is a power hitter, dude. Everything is in his forearms and his wrists. He's not like, he's not like
Flick. He's got the weirdest form. He's like this. He's got the weirdest form.
Dude, incredible. Bill Stevenson is an incredible drummer, an incredible producer, incredible musician, period. But the way he hits, and that came from practicing with Black Flag, like 1984, 1985 Black Flag, where Greg Ginn would just drill him and Kira, and they would just until that they had so much power in their hitting when they were rehearsing all that, like later, like heavy metal, sludgy, whatever garbagey gook that Black Flag was into. And I watched that dude hitting those drums at Irving Plaza, and I just like, oh, you know who was at that show? Jerry was at that show in full Jerry only regalia, and he had one of his minions with him, and he was hanging, I guess, because Dez was playing on stage, right? And and they just crushed it. Flag crushed it, and Bill Stevenson crushed it, and he would crush. He's crush. Was he in? Was he in the band? Did he overlap?
What happened?
Did he overlap when the Misfits were like, he was there in '83 and the Misfits broke up in '83? So I wonder if Bill Stevenson did shows with the Misfits.
I wonder. I thought I saw a gig of Samhain, Black Flag, and Descendants. There was like a flyer. I could have sworn I saw that.
Possible. I love Descendants, man.
I do wonder what Glenn thinks of Descendants. I have weird things where, like, I wonder, like, what other bands think of other bands. Like, I do wonder what Glenn would have thought of Descendants, because they're poppy.
But well, the Descendants are so check this out. The Descendants,
they're the first pop punk band.
Yeah, they are the Ramones of pop punk. They started it all with their sound. Going back to Sublime, like one of Sublime's biggest influences, did tons of Descendants covers. They love the Descendants. Really? Yeah, huge Descendants. That was the last song he played before he died. Was Hope. Wow. Yeah, and it's kind of crazy. They were like the first one, and like, musicians don't like to hear this sometimes, but like, the first one, I was talking about this with the bass player, the Dictators, and I think I might have cheesed them off a little bit with what I said, but what I said, I came from a place of respect. It was not meant to be like a diss, but I was like, the first ones, he was one of they were the first. The Dictators were the first through the door, along with in '73, they weren't the first, but they were at the beginning, and these guys get trampled. The first ones through the door get trampled. And then everybody else is the ones that get the stuff. And it's like, same thing with the Misfits, right? The Misfits were the first through the door, and they get, trampled, and in the sense of like, they didn't get their due at that time. They got their due later, I don't know.
I think the Descendants too are one of the most complex punk bands in a sense of like music aspect. Trying to learn bass lines from the Descendants is a workout, and the same with the guitars. They play power chords, but they don't go along with the bass. Like everything has its place, but it's not in the traditional sense of like a punk band where it's like, all right, everybody's doing this. Like if you listen to those records, listen to the guitar and bass, and they're all doing something different.
Yeah, the bass. I definitely hear it in the bass. The bass is all over the place.
Yeah, incredible, man.
Okay, going back to the Beatles again. All right, if you really want, since no, because the Beatles are because they are the original masterclass, Robby, in everything. They're the masterclass. So Paul McCartney would undermine the other Beatles by basically writing secret songs underneath. So George would write like something, and then you listen to what Paul is doing underneath something. Like you can listen to the bass isolated on Abbey Road. Somebody isolated just the bass, and you just hear what he's doing on the bass. He never repeats himself. He writes.
That's what makes a good bass player.
Oh, dude, he's writing songs underneath the songs. He's like, I'm Paul McCartney, the most prolific, creative songwriter that ever was, and so I'm going to, undermine George Harrison or John Lennon. You listen to what he's doing on "I Want You, She's So Heavy," and you're just like, talk about heavy metal, dude. And you're just like, what the hell? Like it never repeats, not once.
That's what makes a good band usually is when nothing repeats. That's why, like Queen,
really?
It's the thing is like John Deacon is such an underrated.
He never repeats himself.
Never. If you listen to any Queen song, and there's so many isolated bass tracks for Queen,
really,
never repeats himself. Wow. Never. He's the most, and it's a shame because of how good of a singer Freddie was. The rest of the guys get overshadowed. Because even like Roger Taylor, the drummer, if you listen to a lot
of
Queen's,
vocalist. He's a vocalist.
Amazing vocalist. Yeah. And the thing is, he would be a lead singer in any other band. And that's what's crazy. You know what I mean? Because they had such talented members, respectively.
I don't understand why the way that they sort of function, it's always like I don't know why they aren't if they are what you say they are. Not saying that I'm not saying that they're not. I'm saying with everything that you've said just now, it makes me wonder why aren't they putting out albums, like really putting out albums?
All right, so they put out an original album with with what's his name, Paul Rodgers, and it did nothing. I don't like Paul Rodgers, but it did nothing because people want to hear the songs that Freddie did. It's what it comes down to. Nobody wants to. It's the same with kind of the Misfits, where people granted, every arena that Queen plays sells out, but the thing is, people want to hear Freddie songs. It's the same with the Misfits. People wanted to hear Glenn songs in any era. They didn't want to. I mean, they liked Michael Graves, obviously, but people still came there for Glenn songs too. And the same with that. Nobody went there for Devil's Rain. Everybody came there for Michael Graves and for Glenn songs.
Right.
It's the same concept. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's my perspective. They tried to do something, but it didn't grasp on. People wanted to still hear the classics. People wanted to hear the hits.
So let me ask you this. So do you think if the Misfits, what kills me about this too is that like I hate having conversations that go outside of the Misfits when I'm doing this show, because I like to keep it about the Misfits. But like I love that this conversation has gone so far outside of the Misfits.
But they all intertwine in some way.
Yes, you know what I mean? Which is what I'm about to do right now, which is why I said that in the first place. So my question is, if the Misfits do write a new album, if a new album does come out, do you think that it's the only way that it's going to work is if Glenn goes back to stuff that he has from the late 70s, songs from the late 70s, and tries
people are always going to hate on him because it doesn't have that classic sound. The people are not going to be happy. It could be a masterpiece. People will not be happy. That's for some reason, people just love hating on Glenn. I don't understand it. I know he takes himself serious, but I think he's even calmed down with that over the years.
He's calmed down, but
he's chilled out
that's
so
why.
much.
That's why, dude. Because he takes himself so incredibly seriously. People reenact, dude. Tabloid picture, whatever, paparazzis took pictures of him carrying kitty litter one time.
I hate it.
One time. Dude was carrying kitty litter. Oh, I love it. But
no.
What's funny though, is that people reenact one time that dude carried kitty litter to his car. Like it's like legendary.
Let his cat just shit on the fucking floor. That's the dumbest fucking thing ever.
Wait, with what? Wait, what?
I said, what is he supposed to do? Let his cat shit on the floor?
Yeah. No, yeah.
I hate that. I hate that everybody, because they forget how much Glenn contributed to music today when he just becomes a meme. I mean, memes, sometimes they're funny. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes they are funny, but sometimes they're just stupid. And like, there's like a page called like bad photos of Glenn Danzig. It's like, that's just hurtful. That's not, what are you doing? That's not funny. But the memes sometimes
I've lightened up myself over the years. For many, many years, I was like taking it very, very seriously because I was, trying to do this project and felt that it was wrong to, especially if I wanted to, I thought it was the right thing to do was to sort of just, not engage in that sort of stuff. And like, I've sort of like, I stopped kind of giving an F about it. I just sort of like let it melt a little bit because some of it is funny.
Some of it's funny. Some of it's dumb though.
But that's why he is treated. That's why people do hate on him. I don't know if it's all hate. I think it's genuinely like people like, the gothic kid that takes himself way too seriously, and then everybody.
Does he take himself seriously?
No, he doesn't. Because he's just a free thinker, dude. Just a free thinker who does his own thing.
Look at what was that? What was the show Portlandia that he was on? If he really was 100% in that mind state all the time, would he be able to say Billabong? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think, but that was him reaching out in his own way, going, okay, guys, I'm gonna,
chill out.
I'm gonna chill out, and everybody loved him for that. Everybody loved him for that when he did that. And I just think, by the way, I keep scratching my nose because I have to trim my mustache hair, and it's like tickling my nose in case I do not have a coke problem. And the reason why I'm saying the F, I'm trying my best not to curse. I don't want to hamper, because this was not, I did not intend this episode to go so long. But the reason why I'm saying F words is because I'm now, everything's on YouTube, and they're like, dude, they're super strict.
I'll chill with that then.
No. I didn't even want to say anything because now it's like, now, don't worry about it. You're okay. Yeah, I did the same thing to Joe, and I made him feel too much pressure.
No.
But to go back to, we were talking about Glenn taking himself. Oh, about the new Misfits album. I think I feel optimistic as long as he's using old songs, because I don't think I want to believe, but I don't think that he has the mindset to write like the Misfits today. It'll never happen. But if he has that stuff already put away, I'm sure they could squeeze out. I mean, Mephisto Waltz came out of nowhere, right? So I'm sure they could squeeze out a bunch of stuff. We know Infant Stranger and West End Avenue exists, so there's got to be some other stuff from like 1979. Make an album out of that stuff. I'd love to hear that.
I wonder if he would ever release which one was on Quaffable Harpies of the Night that was recorded during that?
As far as I know, Manny Martinez said it was Harpies in the Night. But even when he said it, he wasn't 100% sure. But I, for all intents and purposes, I think it was Harpies in the Night.
That was so. Like, imagine if they remastered that. You know what I mean? And release that.
They can never, because the tape is missing.
Oh, it is.
The masters for Cough Cool are missing. That's why on the box set they used Eerie Vaughn's mint condition. Yeah, they did a DAT tape of that, DAT recording of that, and that's what we have. There's no, the tapes are lost to time. The Earth AD masters are lost to time.
How could they be lost? How could you lose such precious things? I know.
In the same way that the Cough Cool gets lost, the stuff gets lost. There's lots of theories on how that stuff happens.
I do hope if it is lost, it's not sitting in the garage where tape deteriorates. You know what I'm saying? Because tape has a life shelf.
A lot of his stuff apparently was soaking in cat piss.
That's what I mean. But there's only so much damage that it could take, because after a while, it's with all tapes, you have to bake them before restoring them.
That's only for tapes from a certain year of manufacturing. That only happened from
it's from it's like anything
mid-70s to mid-80s. Tapes became unstable after a certain number of years and had to be baked, and that's what Tom McGowan did. He baked the tapes, and they literally, could you imagine that? You're digitizing it, you're digitizing as it's disintegrating, and if anything goes wrong, it's lost time.
That's scary.
It's lost time.
But that's what I mean, though. If these things are missing in a garage somewhere, that means that eventually it's going to be so damaged that it's going to be unrecoverable.
It's possible, man. But he had a trunk full of compositions on paper, which was choruses and verses. And he would take out the best songs and take those to practice. So who knows if maybe some of that stuff still, that's the one thing we think about, all the stuff that's out there on the internet and how much we love all the stuff that's available. And you have to think about all the stuff that Glenn has himself. And people say, he doesn't have anything. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you think that he would even care to, though? Because I don't think we nerd over it.
Probably has some stuff, dude. He probably has some. He probably has all sorts of little trinkets that he doesn't put any emphasis onto them. He probably has tons of. Could you imagine all of the cassette tapes that he probably has in a box, soaked in cat piss? That just like a box of cassette tapes of little things and whatever. I don't know.
It's soaked in cat piss because you motherfuckers were making fun of him for buying kitty litter.
Yeah, that's why you need kitty litter. Adam asks, he did the Devil's Angels cover. It was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good.
I loved it.
It definitely had a Misfits feel, and it makes me optimistic. He arranged that in 79. So that's what I'm saying. He did a 79 arrangement. Could Glenn when did that come out? In 2015, right? Could Glenn in 2015 do the same Devil's Angels arrangement? Probably not. He'd be in a completely different headspace. It wouldn't come out that way, and that's why you need freaking, that you need to preserve that mentality. And it's possible that something very interesting could come from those sessions. I know Doyle's writing. I know Jerry's writing. Probably fighting right now about Glenn, come on, use my song. Don't use my song. Don't use my song. Sounding like Van Halen, just wouldn't work.
No. Would you really want Glenn singing Friday the 13th?
Misfits has to be punk. It cannot be metal. It cannot be. And all of the stuff after 83 is metal in some way, shape, or form. Even that stuff in the 90s, that's all metal. It's not even punk. I love how people call it horror punk. It's not. It's all metal, dude.
I would say, I could imagine Glenn. I know Bobby Steele has said this in the past. He could imagine Glenn singing Don't Open Till Doomsday.
Oh my God.
Could imagine.
Oni says, I think I heard Glenn make a country punk track with Steve. Steve and Glenn did a bunch of recordings in Steve's bedroom. And a lot of it, I've heard some of that stuff, actually. It's been played for me, and it sounds like hardcore. That's what I remember it sounding like. This was 9 years ago when I heard it. I don't even think any of the tracks, they didn't have names, but it was the very beginnings of Samhain. That's why I don't want to take away from Eerie Vaughn saying that that Samhain began with Eerie Vaughn, because it definitely did. But I think Samhain really began with Steve and Glenn in Steve's bedroom jamming, or at least it began there as much as it did with Eerie Vaughn. That gets I think that gets kind of confused.
This is no shade on.
I'm sorry.
This is no shade on Eerie Vaughn, but Steve makes the sound of Samhain along with Glenn more than Eerie does with his bass. You know what I mean? Like
it's just plucking, right?
It doesn't really do anything.
Tribal beats,
Like I think it was wrong when Glenn would say like, "Oh, Eerie's playing stuff that Jerry could never play." It's not true at all. Not true at all, because I don't think Eerie would have been able to play Static Age stuff as well as Jerry.
No, he would not. But that as you said, he's using a pick, and when Jerry took away the pick, he got sloppy. Yeah. He got incredibly sloppy, and his brother probably made him even sloppier if you think about it. No, I'm serious. That's not. Look, I don't want to put all the blame on Doyle here for driving the sound of the band down, but like, you have to imagine that Doyle brings aggression and he brings speed and rhythm, right? That's what he's bringing to the table. And look, listen, no matter what anybody says, Doyle does know how to play guitar. I mean, look, he recorded those Doyle albums. That's him playing guitar. He knows how. He knows how to play guitar. Let's not like pretend like he doesn't know how to play. Everybody likes
totally does.
He does. Of course, he knows how to play. And he also is really good at down picking and rhythm picking and whatnot.
He's a master at it.
Yeah, he's very good at that. I mean, we can't take that away from him. However, his guitar never sounds good in the Misfits. He's sloppy, and he makes his brother sloppier. His brother gets sloppier because of how sloppy he is. I almost want to say, I don't know whose credit it is. Maybe it's Bobby's credit, to Bobby's credit. And really, you with Frank, you could say it's the picks credit,
Well, maybe he knew he had to compensate because Frank didn't know really how to play that well.
Almost like he's sort of like helping Frank to float a little bit, But I'll tell you, nobody can replicate that solo that Frank does on We Are 138. It never sounds right. I mean, come on. Am I right though? It never sounds correct.
No,
whenever you hear a cover,
it doesn't.
Nobody plays it like the way he did on that album. So, there's definitely something to be said.
Man,
there.
I wish there was footage of of any of those recording sessions from the Static Age era, or like the Horror Business, or anything, any kind of documentation of them in the studio.
It probably exists. I don't know about it in the studio, but I mean, I am sure that, that's the thing about media is that, media has a way of just existing. You know what I mean? Like it just, it remains, as long as it remains forgotten, it remains sitting, like so much circumstance. When you think about all the stuff that comes to the surface after years of like just being lost or not existing, like I have faith that more stuff will, rise, will come out.
I mean, they missed an opportunity in 2018 to do something for Static Age, like for a 40-year anniversary. Imagine how cool it would have been though, something like photos we didn't see, because even Jerry was saying
taking photos while they were in the studio, right?
I don't even mean that, but like in your documentary, Jerry, I think it was your documentary where they were talking. Jerry said that they took photos, or somebody said that they
Bobby said
that they took photos every practice basically. So I'm sure they were doing that with the Static Age lineup. I'm sure there's photos we've never seen from that lineup. You know what I mean?
Did you what did you think of my Bobby impression for the London Dungeon?
It's really good.
Is it good?
I thought it was him for a little bit.
Dude, someone else thought it was him, and that was the highest compliment, because I was like,
no, it did.
I was like, I gotta try, and I was like, maybe if I make it sound like he's talking over a phone, like it's a phone call interview, I can like sort of like muddy the quality of the voice so it sounds a little bit more like him.
No, it did. It did sound like that. It did.
I will still say my Bobby impression will never compare to Loki's Chud. Loki's chud is the greatest.
I think I've heard him do that.
He just goes, the key is the restraint. He goes, bro.
God.
And it's so fun. It's just funny, dude. It's really, really funny. Listen, I'm gonna wrap this up. The one thing I want to finish with what we kind of started with, going back to Danzig Sings Elvis for a minute. And I just want to say the thing that makes Danzig Sings Elvis work so well is that it's Glenn using all of his talents outside of the parameters of what he thinks Danzig has to be in order to be Danzig.
I agree.
You know, and I think that he chooses those, and this is where again I disagree with you about Always on My Mind. He uses Tommy perfectly for that solo, because you know what? I'm lost in the song, and I didn't get to say this to you before, and then all of a sudden Tommy comes in. I'm like, yeah, that's what I needed to give you that extra push.
A solo is needed there, but not with those pinch harmonics. It does not fit the style of the song.
See, I don't know what that is. I just hear
the squeals, the squeal every time he does that.
I don't know, man. It just works for me, man. I want to see, that is the artistic direction that I want to see Glenn continuing if he does another album. If that's his final musical statement, I'm happy with that too. Yeah. I think that is the perfect punctuation on a long career, and going out on a highlight like Pocket Full of Rainbows after like Skull Forest, you know, Kiss the Skull.
It's great.
Without Light I Am, which I love. I think that's a great song. But yeah, I don't know, man. Pocket Full of Rainbows. So
awesome.
Listen, thank you so much for jumping on this and chatting. Yeah, man. Great to talk face to face. And you know, sometimes what happens is, the reason why I put the link out there is because, like, you know, I lose my steam. I need someone to bounce off of, and you're great. You know your Misfits so well, so it's great to bounce off of you.
It's good to nerd out.
So yeah. Oh, definitely. We'll do it again sometime in the future.
Definitely. Thank you for having me,
dude. Thanks for coming on. We'll be in touch, dude. We'll talk, guys. Real quick before we go, again, 1979. If you're just joining us, 1979 is coming to YouTube officially. It's going to be on Friday the 13th at 1 p.m. Subscribe to the channel, please. Like this video, leave a comment, and set your reminder for that. And then also we have 2 episodes of Pizza Punk. It's the same episode, but cut in half with Joe Vasta, aka Jeeves, aka JV Bastard. And we have a ton more episodes of streaming EVILIVE, whatever. I have to think of a better name, Robbie. We need a better name for the show.
It's a good name. It's not. I mean, it works.
Yeah, like EVILIVE, yeah. But we have some interesting deep dives we're gonna do. We're definitely gonna hit that Jerry Only 2003 interview. We're gonna see a whole different side of Jerry Only in that one. And guys, thank you again so much. Just go over some of these comments real quick. All right. I'm out, guys. Peace and hair grease.